Hi, I am Tom Chick. We're in my dining room on May 2nd with a blue tick coonhound amongst the suggestions for his name. Let's see, Renegade, Barry, the British spelling, B-A-R-R-I-E, Fauci, all politics aside, and what was this one? Oh, of course, my favorite, Bark Twain. Now, I'm not settling on any of these. Those are just potential names for our friend throughout May, Mr. Blue Tick Coonhound. So we're here in my dining room. I'm about to show you guys a little bit of Arkham Noir. Today, we are going to talk about the witch cult murders, what exactly they are, what's going on, and what will happen if we don't step in and play Arkham Noir to prevent them. So let's go over to the table and let me unfold for you the terrible things happening in Arkham. Come with me. Arkham Noir is a solitaire horror game made by Yves Tourigny. It is part of the Arkham Noir. It's the Arkham Noir series. This is case number 1. If you look down here in little tiny print, you can see these are the witch cult murders. You open up the box and you've got the rules, which is just a single sheet, by the way. Pretty concise rules. And then you just have a deck of cards. There are no tokens, there are no counters, there are no miniatures. Amongst these cards, first few, these are some player aid cards. Set these aside for now. These 4 cards called reference cards. You can sort of see down here in little print in various places on the card. There's reference card 1, reference card 2, reference card 3, and 4 have their different sides. They have an asterisk on one side. That's the difficult mode. We're not doing that today. So to set up the game, you simply take the reference cards, and they end up being kind of your player board. So we'll set out here. They kind of go in clockwise order. Reference card 1, 2, 3, and 4. You also have this card right here, Dr. Armitage. He's a professional contact, and it's a little odd. He's a one-shot power. We're just going to set him aside for now. You then have 6 victim cards. These unfortunate souls are the folks who will be casualties of the witch cult murders. There are 6 of them in the game. We are going to randomly take one of them and put him or her back in the box. So there are only 5. And we're going to put them in a stack right here. The rest of the cards, there's a deck of 50 what are called clue cards. And we're going to stack those, give them a quick shuffle, and then we're going to stack them right here to make our draw stack. We are now, from these clue cards, going to make a row of 5 leads. Now in a deck, these are clue cards. Individually, they're clue cards. In our hand, or when they're assigned to an open case, they're clue cards. But when they're in this row right here, they are also leads. And there will be 5 of them set up like so. One of the important leads to watch is this right here. This on the far left is our first lead. The turn structure of this game is you take an action, then you do a maintenance phase. You take an action, a maintenance phase. The maintenance phase is basically check whether you've won or lost. But pretty much every time it's your turn, you're going to take an action, and that action will involve somehow addressing the first lead. You will never take an action and ignore this. Your action every time in the game is somehow related to this first lead, the clue card in this first lead position. Now, before we start playing, because these are witch cult murders, we need victims. We're going to take 2 victims and create open cases. These folks, I think the idea is they've been murdered. Maybe actually they're just missing. Who knows? The narrative in this is kind of you construct your own based on the cards that are out. But I like to think, they're victims, and these are murders, so it's not the witch cult kidnappings or the witch cult batteries. It's not the witch cult shopliftings. These are misdemeanors. I think these are people who are dead. You can tell by this icon up here. It tells you what kind of card these are. These clues, they're different kinds of clues, but then the victims have this symbol. That to me says a dead person. It's a chalk outline with a bunch of blood under it. By the way, you can tell from the artwork, like that is H.P. Lovecraft. That's a picture of him. If you look at some of the other cards in here, it's clearly H.P. Lovecraft is supposed to be the main hero. There, look at that. Who's that a picture of? What about that one? I was showing the game Deep Madness at the dining room table here before, and one of the characters in that, his name is Ward Phillips, and he looks like H.P. Lovecraft. There's a movie I really like called Color Out of Space, directed by Richard Stanley, and one of the characters in that is named Ward Phillips. And I was thinking, well, what is this? Which story is Ward Phillips in? And it occurred to me only today, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Ward Phillips. So at any rate, Yves Tourigny making this game, it's like, yeah, you play Howard Phillips Lovecraft the Investigator. So there's none of this Ward Phillips nonsense playing coy with who it is. So as investigators, our job is to keep this stack of victims from running out. If ever we need to add a victim to the open cases, and we can't, we've lost the game. That's one of two ways to lose the game, this being a Lovecraftian game. The other way, of course, is to go insane. So what I want to show you today is what's going to happen if we don't investigate and intervene in these witch cult murders, how the game will end. It's kind of a handy way to teach or to learn co-op or solitaire games is let the system that you're fighting against run. Here is the bad result of that system. So every turn we do an action and then there's maintenance. The action, as I said before, will always address this. And the least powerful action, the basically, there's nothing I can do action, is to discard this. Then during maintenance, you check whether you've won or lost. If none of those conditions is met, if the game keeps going, you scoot all the cards down, and from the draw deck, you add a new clue card to the leads row. So again, for our next action, let's discard this, add a new clue card to the leads row. And we keep doing this, doing nothing. For our actions, we're just letting the witch cult murders run their course. Discard, discard, move down, draw. What will eventually happen is that we will have 5 cards out here. We add the last card, we do nothing, that goes down here. We then scoot these over to the left, and we go to add, oh, the deck is empty. When that happens, the witch cult murderer, who or whatever that may be, strikes again. We take a victim and we add an open case. After you've had a new murder victim, you then take the discard pile, you shuffle it, and you put it right back here, and then continue on adding a card where you couldn't before. Now you have one fewer victim. So let's run through this whole thing again. All the cards are discarded. This is here. We then have to add another victim. We're stacking up victims, adding a new draw pile. We run through it again. Eventually what will happen is you will go to add a card to the leads row. There's nothing to add. There are no more victims. And as it says here, these reference cards are kind of like the player board. If you run out of victim cards but must draw one, game over. And so there we've lost the game to the witch cult murderer. We were terrible as an investigator. So what you're thinking then is, oh, this big deck of cards, look at all of them. I can go through them 4 times before I lose the game. I have that many victims outstanding. Well, normally you would be right, but let me then tell you about something called the time penalty. According to the rules of the time penalty, you're actually going to have a lot less time than you thought. These cards, some of them have, in the lower right-hand corner, nothing. Some of them have an hourglass. Some of them also have an insanity symbol. We'll get to that in a minute. This hourglass here means that if ever, for any reason, that card is discarded, either because you choose to discard it, because an effect discarded it, but if anything causes this to be put singly into the discard pile, stop there. No, do not put that in the discard pile. Instead, it goes over here to the time penalty pile. As you add cards to the time penalty pile, you're going to want to fan them out like so that you can see how many cards are in there. Because during the maintenance phase, if there are ever 5 or more cards in here, you then, as per the instructions on the card, add a victim and then take all of the cards in the time penalty and put them in the discard pile. So whereas you might have thought you've got this whole deck to run through, nope. Every time 5 cards with that hourglass go towards the discard pile, they instead get shunted over to this time penalty, and that is going to add a victim a lot more quickly than simply this deck running out. Now you're probably wondering, okay, How many of these cards have that hourglass symbol? Well, it's easy. There's 50 of these cards. 25 of them have the hourglass symbol. So if you don't intervene in the witch cult murders, if you just let this lead card get discarded here every action, you're not even going to get through this deck once. So a lot of Arkham Noir is about managing whatever card is here, and if it has this symbol on it, making sure it doesn't just get shunted into the discard pile and therefore apply to this clock over here. That's basically the game clock. That is most likely how you're going to get the most people killed and run out the game that way. Now, this being a Lovecraft game, the other way you're going to lose the game is by going insane. Every now and then you'll make what's called a stability check, but I think we all know what's really going on here. It's a sanity check. When you make a stability check, you simply look at the top card of the deck and you check for whether or not there's a little insane man icon. There's not. That would be safe. This would be discarded and you're fine. If you were to flip this card up, you don't go insane, but this is discarded, and by discarded, whoops, it doesn't go there, it goes into the time penalty stack. Now when you flip up a card like this, which has that symbol, it then goes up here into the stability row or insanity row. And as the card says here, if you ever have 5 or more cards in this row, it's then game over because you've gone insane. So there's a game clock up here. If there are ever 5 cards here, you add a victim, the cards go to the discard pile. If there are ever 5 or more cards here, you've gone insane, game over. So how do we prevent that from happening? How do we actually win the game and stop the witch cult murders? I'll show you that tomorrow. Oh, shoot a monkey.